What is up, shitbags?
Hey, it's my line. What's up, shitbags? Trying to steal my line. I'll steal yours. Episode 34.
Episode 34.
Second of the new year. Happy holidays, I guess, even though when this comes out, it won't be anymore. But hope everybody had some great holidays, family and friends. You know, we're talking about it. It's all great holidays. Hopefully if you had some bad ones, maybe you got people that brought you up. Because, especially our line of work, sometimes holidays are good or bad. So hope everybody's taking care of themselves and had a good new year. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. So,
Hell yeah.
got an exciting episode. Second episode of the year. Andy's was great. Now we got another Andy, first civilian. Both Andy S's too. I was trying to put our schedule together and I was like, fuck, I gotta actually spell these names out. But yeah, first civilian of the year. Really excited. Can't wait to bring him in. So let's stop wasting any time and get right to it. Bring in Andy.
Oh, you're not wasting my time.
Welcome,
How's it
Andy.
going?
Welcome.
Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Tell everybody a little bit about you.
All right. Well, I guess long-time listener, first-time caller. I just so happen to live in Bryce's service area, so
Yeah,
he knows what he's talking about. Spent my adult life in the construction industry, but said Bryce has the distinction, I guess, of his fiance being my sister-in-law, so there's that connection. Not to mention, you know more than a few of his counterparts, so here we are.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for coming on and taking the time and being the first civilian guest. So
for sure,
we thought it was a perfect start. Like you said, we've talked about you before on the episode a lot. You had a couple of call outs, but yeah, he's been listening since episode 1 and not a firefighter. Knows a couple firefighters. Has some friends with them, but I know he's actually listening. He doesn't just say it because he comes back with actual stuff from the episode. So thought it'd be perfect to start this little this civilian episodes with him.
Yeah, awesome. Further ado, we got the first question here. Is probably the hardest question, but we got it here. Why are we here?
Well, the short answer or the long answer?
You take it however you want to take it.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the short answer is Bryce asked, and I said, sure, why not? I guess the longer answer is just to kind of expand on that. I think of the connection, Bryce and I's connection. So inherently you spend a lot of time with your family, right? So, okay, Kaylin's got a new boyfriend. Be nice to him. And you come to find out Bryce really likes talking about firefighting. And I have a tendency to want to learn everything. I don't want to know just the cliff notes. Kind of want to get down into the weeds. So inevitably, when you connect that and somebody who really likes talking about what they do, spend hours and hours talking about that sort of thing. So then the podcast came on, listened to it, and like Bryce said, gave feedback.
Yeah.
Had some follow-up questions. Probably had a couple, you got to get that guy on again. He was good. And then all of a sudden you're kind of changing format or whatever. And it's like, well, let's get some others. It's like civilian. And yeah, I'll do it. So here we are.
Yeah. Awesome. We, again, like you said, we can't thank you enough for coming on. And yeah, a lot of the changes that we have made, I think for the good, have come from a text from him shortly after an episode releases saying, hey, this was shit, or like, this is good, get this guy on. You really like Blatz, right? You really like Blatz. Blatz was a fan favorite of yours. He was a fan favorite of everybody. We might have to get our good friend Blatz back on. But
I think you probably could have gone Rogan length with that one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Blatz.
He can talk that long too.
So much information.
Yes,
well, we are gonna, not only with it being the civilian episode, kind of change up the order a little bit, but we had our question from our last Andy. We thought was so good that we could dive into it so long that we are gonna actually bring that up to the front. So this was something we really wanted to talk about, bringing a civilian on, especially somebody who has a connection. So you do know a little bit more than the average person about what we do and how we kind of carry ourselves, I guess. Um, and the question that we have from Andy is, what do you expect from us as firefighters, and how can we do better?
Okay.
This one we're gonna get in the weeds with.
Well, that's a very interesting one. Because we've definitely had this conversation before. And I'm gonna liken it to the hope we get a call kind of scenario, or you want to go out and work. Now, in my lily white world, I hope the bell never rings. I hope it's just it's an insurance policy in the city of Fond du Lac an $11.5 million budget. Mm-hmm. But that being said, I guess, what do I expect from the fire service? I expect that as a city or whatever municipality you happen to be in, mm-hmm. You have the resources to do your job, be it physical resources, whatever resources you need. Mm-hmm. And then secondly, the people tasked with doing it are well trained and good at it. Again, we'll single out Fond du Lac, for example. As I understand it, one of a handful, if that, departments in the country that are, what is it, ISO 1 accredited. 1, mm-hmm. I mean, so as a homeowner and taxpayer, that's awesome because it makes your insurance lower. But I think it goes really with any occupation. What do you expect? What do you expect out of the guy shingling your house? Or in my world, the contractor building your building. You want the absolute best. You want 100% of their effort. Not every day is going to be a busy day. One thing I've told people over years, some days you get paid too much and some days you get paid too little. Just kind of balances out.
Ain't that the truth?
But I think really it's like with anything in life. You do your best and hopefully you're well equipped. I mean, and by that I mean top quality equipment, both top quality rigs, engines, trucks. Mm-hmm. That's one question I don't think I have asked yet. What's the difference between an engine and a truck? But no, really, I think it's from the admin side, putting you guys in the best possible position, and then on the rank and file side, when that time comes, being the best you can be at it and not phoning it in. Yeah. God forbid it ever happens, but if my place goes up, I don't want people standing around the truck. Well, we'll get to it. And it's like, no, put this sucker out. Let's go here. Mm-hmm. But no, I've been on, unfortunately, I have been in an ambulance before. It was not a good experience, but it was, I guess it was everything I expected. They take good care of you, get you to where you got to go. But Bill Belichick said it best. Do your job. The Patriot.
Yeah. I like it.
At least when he had Tom Brady.
Oh yeah, great. We'll get back into that conversation. Yeah. We talk just as much sports as we do firefighting, and now we got a police officer in the family. So now we got all the public safety chats when the family gets together. Like, no, that's awesome. That's why we wanted to bring it up.
That's actually kind of nice too, because I can remove myself from it and just giggle at you two bantering. So it works so
well. But yeah, that's why we wanted to, talk about it or ask the question, because we throw that around a lot and we talk about it all the time as firefighters. Be the person that you would want responding, or be the best at your job. But none of us are true civilians. A lot of us have that weight, whether it be we live in our response area like I now do, but even not when I initially started, like you had that weight or that change. You didn't just say it, like you could actually enact it. So being somebody on the other side that like you expect us to show up and be that best is kind of very interesting and good confirmation that, you know, that is really, it's kind of a no-brainer, but it's good to hear that, yes, that's exactly what you do want us to be.
Oh, I mean, it is and it isn't. You see, and again, it's all walks of life. You know, it doesn't matter what you do for a living or who you encounter. There's people that are going to be real. They're going to be gung ho. They're going to be whatever. There's going to be, honestly, we call them 7 to 3:30 guys that they're good at their job. They're well trained. They perform exceptional, but it's just, this is where I go to punch my clock, and that's fine too. And then, unfortunately, there's a fair amount of the population that is, what's the term? Shitbags. And in your line of work, I'd prefer to not have to encounter those types. But
yeah,
I think it kind of goes with anything. I mean, if you're going to do something, you might as well do it your best.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of where we'll keep going with that same topic for our next question. You talked about a little bit to be ready when that bell rings or whatever. How important to you is our training?
Ooh, well, I would say it's important. I'm not super read in on in terms of what a day-to-day looks like from department side, whether Fond du Lac or Brennan, you're in Beaver Dam.
Beaver Dam, yep.
Okay. So I don't know what that looks like on the day-to-day. But you know, I think knowing your equipment and knowing that stuff's checked out, ready to go. I mean, it's just simple stuff like that too. Like, I don't think you can really simulate everything that you'll get into in a day, but just something as simple as, hey, I've checked my equipment off. It's good to go. And really, our careers are different, but it's not dissimilar. You don't just fire up the crane and start swinging steel all over the place. You don't. You check it out. You make sure everything's running properly. You make sure, you know, whether it's an engine, an air tank, whatever it is, that it's checked out and ready to go should you need it. And I think, again, I don't know your specifics, but I think it is good to stay fresh. Again, I said, and it'll be a recurring theme as long as the question, I wish for 0 calls. I was actually just at a thing that Envision Fond du Lac puts on, and part of it was Public Safety Day, which was an awesome day. It really was. But they shared out some statistics. I think it's 20,000 calls approximately in Fond du Lac a year. Obviously, that number will never be 0. Just not going to happen. But that said, and it kind of goes back to my previous comments, you got to position yourself well to do what it is you're going to do, whether that, and I don't know if that's practicing hooking up, dragging, search techniques. Like I said, I don't know what capabilities we have in town exactly, or if it's external training. But I think too, Planet Christmas, it's hard to get 15 people in the same spot. But I think even if there's people like within your organization that are training and bringing some fresh ideas back, that's also good. I mean, you're not going to probably reinvent the wheel, but I think sometimes you can learn something from everybody, right?
Absolutely.
And so when you're in your 50s, you might have somebody come on year in and be like, why are we doing it like this? Well, it's the way we've always done it. And we get that too. And then all of a sudden you think about it, it's like, okay, maybe there is a better way.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe this is kind of been backwards all along. But no, I think how important training is just goes right back to, well, how important is it that you're ready to do your job?
Yeah.
Pure and simple. And I think there's obviously you want to stay fresh, you want to stay relevant. And there's probably a high end, and there's probably I'm doing nothing,
Mm-hmm.
and there's somewhere in between. And obviously you want to at least get here, if not really, really engaged in it. But I guess I would assume for you guys, training means so many different things.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually think of an episode, it might have been your Blatz episode, where he's talking, well, nobody wants to go outside when it's 20 below out. I sure as hell wouldn't. But at least that's an opportunity to, hey, if you haven't been on a piece of equipment in a while, take a look at it, tune it up, clean the stuff so it's ready to go. Is that training? Probably not. Is that familiarizing yourself and working on your readiness? I would say so. So I think that's all part of it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
for sure.
I think it's for sure training, especially like you said, that familiarity. I mean, if you get on a fire scene or an accident, whatever it may be, and that's your first time you've touched a piece of equipment, it's not going to go well. You know, you need to be familiar. And even circling back to answer your question, you talked about with the morning checks, like what we do. Most, if not all departments, we do daily checks, which is basically a quick look at everything on that rig. Weekly checks, which usually will be a little bit more in depth of a lot of those things. And then monthlies, where at least for us, everything gets pulled off the trucks and checked, run, and done. So we do, the mornings are busy. Most departments, they at least have something, I would say all, check everything every day to make sure that stuff is. So, you know, that's something maybe some people don't know, especially I'd say the civilians that live close to the firehouses do when they hear the saws running at 8 o'clock in the morning. Like, what in the fuck? Maybe they figured out that it happens every Wednesday for us. You know, maybe they figured that part out. But yeah,
it's just kind of like the noon tornado whistle on Saturday. Just get used to it after a while.
Every morning, 7 o'clock.
Yep. Yeah,
For
they're
me,
even earlier.
at least.
Even earlier, yeah.
So, yeah, just like Bryce, we have daily and weekly checks. So dailies, you check everything. You just go through the equipment, but you just don't start everything. So it's a quick check. See if you got all your stuff. Your weekly stuff, you pull everything off, start it, make sure everything has batteries are good and everything. Then we have a lot of probies on our shift now. So then we go down there again. Then we go through with the probies. So that's training. Pulling everything off, getting familiarized with all your equipment, how it works, ins and outs of everything in the truck. So,
I think too, especially because there's kind of a difference now between you two, where I think Bryce, and this is going off of memory, it's a lot more specialized. I guess if you would liken it to a trade, in your old department, you did a little bit of everything.
Gotcha.
One day it was driving the engine, one day it was on the ambulance.
Yep, that's the difference.
I wonder out loud sometimes if you've been on the engine forever, how good are you in the ambulance anymore? If it's not something you do every day.
right.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you gotta keep up on a lot more things, especially down there. You know, it was fun. I'm sure Brennan can attest. It is fun that you get to do something different every day that you walk in, but you do have to work a little bit harder to stay up on those in case you go on a spree of being on the engine, not driving or whatever it may be.
And I always wonder, sometimes is that a blessing or a curse? Maybe it's both.
Both.
And again, in my civilian world or civilian, sometimes you can be really diverse and have a good, well-rounded skill set, but there's a lot of folks who are really good at one thing, and that's awesome. They just kick ass at it. And it's like, am I trying to remember 5 or 6, 7, however many different roles? Maybe you can, how many there are. It's like, then you really got to be up on it, because that's that many more things that you have to refresh yourself on. But and again, in anything, continuing education, always wanting to learn and always wanting to be better. I mean, I think it's important. I don't think so. Now I've been in the workforce for 19 years. Since Bryce was in diapers. Well, maybe not.
No, probably still 5. Yeah, that's
Probably still wearing diapers.
But that said, my job is not the same as it was 19 years ago. And I don't expect that you guys, when you came on, is the same as it was for firefighters that started when I entered the workforce. And 20 years from now, it's going to be different yet. Who only knows? If Elon has the firefighting robot or something queued up and ready to go. But no, I think it's training, continuing education, whatever you want to call it. It's important. It's always going to be important.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah. Our next question, I already know how the first answer is going to go, so then we're going to have to go past the joke one. But what do you think a day in the life of the firefighter at a firehouse looks like?
Well, they wouldn't show us the room the other day. So,
that's because that's where they're all hiding, huh?
I might have a little bit of inside intel on what a day in the life looks like. But I would imagine, you wake up when the sun is warm, sit and BS over coffee. No, I'm kidding. I would imagine a lot of it, especially at the beginning of the day, is kind of going through your checks, everything ready to go, handing off to the new shift or changeover, turnover, whatever you choose to call it. Again, maybe spilling the beans, but I'd imagine like a lot of businesses have their annual checks, things of that nature. And then I would imagine house duties, and if and until the bell rings. Now, when I was at the station the other day, I think there was 2 calls that went off in the hour or so that we were there touring, and I asked what response time was, and I think it was 60 seconds for the ambulance and 80 seconds for the fire engine. And someone's like, well, why is it longer for the engine? And the cop in our group said, well, it takes them longer to fold their chair down. So I had a giggle about that. And then I guess, honestly, the bell goes off, and then who has any idea what the hell the day looks like, right?
Yep.
It could be nothing. It could be, if I use local recent example, it could be an ammonia leak. It could be a fully blown fire. It could be a really bad accident or EMS. I mean, who knows? I guess I would think that once you get through your morning and just kind of the formalities of starting the workday, who really knows? Because no 2 days are the same. And again, it's really not, in my eyes, all that dissimilar. At least in my line of work, no 2 days are the same. And I think, that's part of what the appeal is, because nothing gets static.
Yeah.
So now that could have taken 8 to 10 hours of a 24-hour shift. So I would, again, you might be out on calls all day. Might be by department. It might just be by happenstance. It could be a good day, could be a bad day.
Mhm.
But then I would imagine there's probably ghillies involved and maybe an argument over what game gets watched or things of that nature.
You're just talking about weekends. That's not.
Yeah, I'm only talking about weekends. But then again, you doze off and it's 2 a.m. and the damn bell goes off again. So who really knows?
Yeah.
Actually, I'll tell you a funny one is what does a day look like? We go up north for the 4th of July with one of Bryce's coworkers and some other families every year. And good husband and father that he was shuttling back and forth between his shifts, and he gets up there and he's tired as hell. It's like, what's wrong with you? Well, people decided to set off fireworks inside an apartment building in the middle of the night. So I was out there. So yeah, I have no idea what a day looks like. And
People keep it fresh. People,
most
the
people
normal human stupidity keeps it fresh.
Yeah.
Stupid things happen every day.
I guess not to indict myself, but we were at that same up north location once, burning some brush that a friend of mine had declared overgrown, and all of a sudden, oh man, this is getting way too close to the tree. And it was getting like way too close. Well, he just so happened to have the volunteer department guy's number in his phone. And thank God he had water in the truck. It was October, so wasn't in a freezing condition yet. But yeah, things you don't plan for.
Yeah.
And that guy was probably thinking, I got a nice, easy day. What could possibly happen? And then these clowns who know better are, burning leaves on a dry day. And so
It happens.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty accurate. Like you said, that we definitely have stuff that we're supposed to get done every day. We have a normal work day, so like Monday through Friday, we do have basically a 9 to 5 hours. For us, it's like 8 to 4, and where we kind of have to be doing things. Like we'll have tasks, whether it be inspections, or training, or just other stuff that we got to get done. And that's all call dependent. So as long as we do it, like one of my truck driver on my shift, he says, we are at the end of the day here to take calls. So if we show up and we got a long list of shit to do, but the bell rings, oh well, we'll get that to it later on a different day. That's our job is to take calls. Everything else is basically just filler. And then after 4 is the recliner time. So that's then we get to you get to sit in your recliners at home at 4 o'clock when you get home. We get to sit in ours at the firehouse. We're not that different.
So how does it get determined who gets to pick the channel? Is there a rotation?
Senior guy.
Senior guy.
Yeah.
It's always
Senior
sports.
guy, that's what they get. Usually, yeah. If it's majority, like if let's say that senior guy is like not a sports fan, but there's like a Packer game on, they aren't going to win that. Then you got enough hands. But otherwise, yeah, it's senior guy. Our good, I fucking love him. He retired at Beaver Dam. Ox, you knew you were in for a sci-fi night if he was there. He was
sci-fi
mostly around the department, so there was nobody above him. It was a sci-fi night, but he would give up the sports. If there was a game going on, he would be the first to give up the remote. But
so the visual I had in my head of a bunch of guys eating popcorn and watching Backdraft, that's not entirely
that happens.
Popcorn and Backdraft, they do happen. It does happen.
That's a holiday.
We make popcorn a lot on my shift. We make it a lot.
Popcorn, ice cream, and root beer floats.
Awesome. Now we're going to kind of pivot a little bit and go into your line of work, some stuff that you can share, as like we said, it's definitely beneficial for us. So the first question is just, what is an important fact that you think firefighters should know about building construction?
Well, there's a million different types. And honestly, I think, you should probably know a lot of things. And I guess to bring you into the day-to-day, because concrete, wood, steel, they all have their different burn characteristics. Is a building sprinklered? Is it not sprinklered? Yada, yada, yada. I actually, that seems kind of boring to me. So I guess what I would say, and we do this all the time, is it's important to actually engage your local department, especially if you're on a remodel. We'll get them in there early and often because it's for a number of reasons. Ultimately, at the end of the day, whether you get occupancy or not, they have a lot of say so in that. So you want to develop a relationship because relationships are important, and you want to be open and receptive to questions, whether some places it's the chief, other times there's an inspector assigned, so on and so forth. So you want to get on the same page right away because even designers aren't perfect and they can miss something, or there's a question, is this a rated assembly? Is this not rated? How is this being sprinklered? Where's my standpipe? Actually, where's my Knox box? It changes. Some people want it out of reach so that you have to be an adult to grab it. Some people want it plainly obvious right on the pillar out front. But also, and this is especially in a remodel condition, where you could put up temporary walls. So all of a sudden the configuration of the building is completely different than what you knew of it. And you think of a large building in your area, and if you've been there enough, you know it like the back of your hand, right up until there's a remodel. Then a whole wing of that building might be closed down and inaccessible because there's an excavation there, or the hydrant that was old reliable. If something goes off here, this is where I'm going. That's blocked off. It might have been abandoned. It might be in a new location. So really just getting familiar so that there's somebody, and honestly, this gets done with police too, where the makeup of this has changed and here's what's going on. And sometimes that's a weekly conversation. Sometimes it's a monthly conversation. Sometimes it's a heads up, like, hey, this is going to happen, because it is disruptive and there is impact, not only to the people that are in there on a day-to-day aspect, but it might change how you approach something as well, depending on, if you can kind of visualize that. And I think that's important to know. We've had it before sometimes where, because, I said firefighting's changing, construction technology is changing too, where we've enlightened people like that didn't know the capabilities of a wand door, for example. You can create a 3-hour wall with a wand door. But no, I think, it's just early communication and often. Everybody's there to do a job. And I think if you can build a rapport early on, it's not a corner cutting or anything of that nature. It's being on the same page and being part of the team, because ultimately the occupancy and therefore opening of that building hinges on the authority having jurisdiction signing off. So it can either be a friend or you can make an enemy out of them. And I've never experienced the latter. I don't want to. And I think the more and more you get from even a brand new building, if you've seen it throughout from its infancy to all the way to its completion, you have a sense of what's in there, what it's made up of. You could get into the techniques and the material types and whatever, but it's, a lot of the stuff I do, it's heavy concrete, heavy steel, stuff that doesn't burn as easy. There's a huge segment now growing with like mass timber, which actually passes all the burn characteristics. It's a little bit different. I'm not super up on it, but another thing at first, I think at first the common misconception was that it was going to be a big tinder box. It's actually not. It performs pretty much equivalent to its steel and concrete counterparts. So, Yeah, that's,
Way to avoid that question right away.
What's that?
I said, what NFPA code is that?
I told you. If you want to hit me, I asked him a couple days ago, am I going to have to get in the code book and start remembering stuff? I went ahead enough time. But
no, that's awesome. I didn't know about the heavy timber coming back on that, because it's definitely something, at least again, this, even though it's not quite as long ago, it still was a decent amount of time since I've been in Fire One school. At least then it was talked about that was dying off a lot and that we wouldn't be seeing that much more.
Well, there's a big push for sustainable building. There's a lot of advantages, even from a scheduling standpoint. Basically the floor and wall systems show up pre-made with all the holes for all your plumbing. It's rather unique. Like I said, I haven't had the opportunity to work on one yet, but it's pretty cool. And I think a lot of what the misgivings or kind of misconceptions people had, they're proving themselves wrong. So yeah, I guess you'll see it more and more. So
that's basically a Lego kit they had to put together.
It's yes.
That's what's happening. Our generation is getting into construction. They're like, man, I love the Legos and Lincoln Logs. Let's bring that shit back.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, that's kind of going back to what you're talking about with the walkthroughs. It's definitely important. I mean, I don't have the exact facts, but thinking again to fire school or just as the anniversaries come up, like especially a lot of our firefighter fatal fires in history, like our big ones, are ones that were under construction. And it doesn't seem like statistically wise there's one more fire than happens than the other, whether you compare construction, under construction, whatever. But just coming to mind, there is a lot of ones that are under construction that killed firefighters because either the alarm continues to go off the past month or 2 months, 3 months because they're working on it, and so it's the complacency when you show up, or not knowing the building, showing up and either it's a remodel or a new construction, you don't know what's going on. So that's definitely a big and a huge part, is keeping that rapport up, because it definitely would be a good heads up to have.
Well, and even if you think of it in the building process, you're exposing the building to a type of use that it's not going to see. You're not going to be throwing sparks or So I think that's why too, in my world, it's important to you have to take all those safety precautions. Storing flammables outside, it seems like a really obvious thing. I would imagine those situations that you're describing were likely the result of carelessness, and nobody I'll go right back to my first point. Nobody wants a visit from you guys. Nobody. It's just a headache for everybody. So I think, that's where it's important for us. And, if they're walking and they see a potential risk, let's identify it. Let's get it addressed early and take care of it.
Absolutely.
But no, I could believe that. Yeah. When it's under construction, and that's where it's important too, because it changes daily. So what was there a week ago might not be there anymore. So getting familiar.
Absolutely. Keeping along kind of the same topic, this will go back to another kind of horror story that we were taught in fire school. But how much is fire thought about in the building construction phase? We talk about you guys a lot. We've got whole classes of building construction, and whether they're just horror stories, because now there's some studies saying some of them that we were taught were like, at least a lot of the things we were told, it's like, man, why do they do these things? They fail under fire.
Well, I think it's thought of a lot. You go to any set of construction documents, the very first page is typically called code review or life safety plan, where it's showing your egress, your paths, your fire separation areas, all that sort of thing. Boy, you'd be hard pressed to find anything commercial these days that's not sprinklered. I mean,
Yeah.
sprinklers can do an awful lot if properly designed and properly deployed and all of that sort of thing. So I think it's thought about a lot because, for anybody, that's going to be the most money they ever spent in their life is on their building. And obviously you want to protect that investment. You want to be able to insure that investment. So like a builder's risk carrier has a very vested interest in what's the construction type, how is this being protected? So no, it's absolutely thought of. And even you think of like fire stopping products, everything's got to be compatible with everything because probably maybe this goes back to your schooling or whatever, but 20 years ago, it wasn't thought of as much. And are these products compatible with one another? Now it is. You've seen time and time again that sometimes things just don't quite shake out how they were hoped, and they've adapted and evolved. So no, I would imagine, I mean, I'm not the designer, I'm the builder, but it's absolutely thought of. It's absolutely thought of.
Awesome. I guess the one thing we were talking about that, Brennan, you can add in on because you had that example at firemanship. Like the big thing that was driven into our heads was gusset plates. They're like, oh, they fail under fire. Like they're so strong they fail. Have you like heard about this? Do you guys test that? What is there? Because Brennan's got some insight. Like it's coming around. Maybe it's not that true. Maybe they actually hold up.
Again, most of what I deal in is steel. I would imagine in the old days, gusset plates were wood, typically. So
I've seen some pictures.
Wood does burn. That's not something I'm super read up on. I will tell you that a lot of times, especially in rated areas, like specifically like exposed steel, it'll get like a fireproof coating on it. So that helps. And again, I can't really say enough about sprinklers because hopefully in a perfect world, if something does happen, by the time you guys get there, the sprinklers got it under control or at least it's not fully taken off yet. But no, as far as specifics about gusset plates, that I've never heard.
I think
that's a new one to me. Thanks for
everybody that's gone through has seen the pictures of like the fried beam and then the steel gusset plate being pulled off, or like, so it was just an interesting thing. We were wondering if you'd heard about, especially in the fire, because that's just something that at least in the fire books when we were going through,
every fire book was
every page of building instruction was like, do not get on a roof with gusset plates. Do not do this with gusset plates. Like, look at these pictures of gusset plates failing. Like, it's a whole section is just that.
If I had to take a really uneducated guess, I would imagine it's something like the domino effect, where in and of itself it might be fine, but if it's something is causing stress to something beneath it, who knows what could happen?
Yeah, it's fine.
You promised me no tough ones, though.
Hey, you handled it well.
No, I'm gonna have to ask around.
We've gone down to, we got the last two questions. So we've used the question from the previous guest. We've got our last question in here, which we're giving you the opportunity to ask us because you said you had some for us. And then you have to come up with another question. So be careful what you wish for, because now you got to come up with two questions. So the first one is, what question do you have for us?
I should have wrote them down. Well, fast forward to your last shift. What does a successful career look like to you?
All right. That's a hard one. I'll
Take it
take
first,
it.
Brennan.
What does a successful career look like for me? Yeah, going on jobs. Uh, I think you're always asked in every interview question, what does your 5 years look like? Um, just they want you to know you have goals. I think a successful thing is that you met your goals. For example, my goal is to be a lieutenant or a captain one day. Or someone's goals is like I want to work at that fire department because they get the call volume that I want. Or I I think it's all goal oriented, and I think that someone in our career field has to, meet their goals in order to be happy and successful. If you're not meeting your goals and you're stagnant, you're not going to be happy with your job like everywhere else.
Mhm.
So I think that's goals oriented is the biggest thing. So if you met your goals in your career field, I think that you'd have a happy retirement.
Yeah. I think my short cop out answer has been talked about on here before. It was leaving it better than you found it. But then diving kind of more into it, I would say, especially like we had Chad Daly, I liked when he was talking about it, is most jobs, most places, especially the fire service, you're one of two people when you leave. You're either someone that nobody talks about again, was just coasting. Maybe you only get brought up when there's bad things or a story, or you could be someone that is remembered for a while as something that actually had change and hand things down. And I think that would be a good way once you reach those goals to know that you've succeeded, is being remembered in good ways and passing that down, making the job better, having people that actually gain something for you would be how I would rate my success.
Oh, well answered. I think I kind of asked it because you want to. I think a lot of, and especially in your line of work, and I would imagine you want to be the person that somebody reads about someday, right? They did a life-saving measure, some sort of rescue, but again, in my perfect world, I literally hope, I honestly, for the both of you or anybody, that you can go your whole career without ever having to be in that position. Now, with that said, sometimes it happens. It's inevitable. But I think that's important too. Like you said, you want to be remembered so that when you hang it up, whatever it is, 30 years from now, it's like, yeah, good worker, did his thing, stayed up on it, didn't get complacent. Yeah, that's
And
what
we're very
it's not the
type A people. So we always strive for more for type A people. There's a lot of type A people in our service. So striving to be better and improving the fire service goes a long way.
Yeah, actually that at that tour I was at, I actually had to ask Bryce's assistant chief if they had to put him outside and let him run around a couple times before the start of the day. Just to burn some energy off.
Yeah, that's for sure.
But no, I mean, I think that's good. You don't want to phone it in. And I think there's an evolution, where you get gung ho, and then I always wonder too, like kind of that middle of you're not new anymore, but you're not the grizzly old guy yet. And how do you get through that middle part of life or career, if you will, and not get completely jaded to the idea, but in the same token, stay engaged, I guess, for that.
Absolutely. Man. Yeah, that was a great question. You're a natural. Now you got to do it again. So the last one of the day is the question that you have to come up with for our next guest. Our next guest being Jeffrey Bryant. He was a pillar in creating firemanship. Brennan got to go do it last year. We're going to be going into this year. Big training conference that he started back up. All around good dude. Brennan got to meet with him a little bit more and talk with him some more, but he's just a people's fireman. So what question do you have for him?
I don't know if this is going to be an easier or a hard one. How do you tell a crew member that their cooking is shit? Nicely.
Go straight to their face and say you're cooking is shit.
No, you just say they don't have to cook next time.
Like Bryce put me in the hospital that day.
I did not. That was
shit.
That was not my cooking. Nobody else got sick. Motherfucker! I knew he'd bring that up. No, that's a great question. But yeah, that's all we have for you.
I figured it had to be a good one because there's got to be. And I won't ask you to out anybody, but there's got to be some times where it's like, oh, him again, her again. Excuse me. Not this.
Brennan burning his noodles. You want to talk about putting you in the hospital? I'm talking about you fucking up noodles. How do you fuck up noodles?
I made starch soup. Winter water soup.
No, that's a good question. I'll be curious to see what Brian, because everybody cooks different. There's like every station, every department does something different. Maybe it's just a senior guy, maybe it's a rotation. So be curious what Jeffrey's run into in his career. But no, that's a great question. So yeah, that's all we got. Thank you very much for coming on. Our last part is just what we call the kitchen table. As you've heard, all we do is sit around the kitchen table and bullshit. So if there's anything else that you wanted to throw out before we wrap things up, the time is yours.
Oh, you got nothing. I got to save some material for Saturday.
Yeah, there we go. We'll have lots more conversations. We'll have all these questions you wish you would have asked. So we'll be talking
right?
About.
Yeah. That'll be like Seinfeld where I wish I would have said jerk store or something. No, I appreciate having me on. Been cool.
Thank you for coming on, being the first civilian guest.
I'll have to listen to my own episode and think about, oh God, you sound like a dork.
Yeah,
but that's all right.
It's hard to listen to yourself. I don't like it. I hate it. I don't listen to many of our episodes because I can't listen to my voice. But
well, no, very like I said, always informative, always enlightening. So
awesome. Well, thanks for coming on. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We didn't do it at the beginning, so I'm going to throw it in real quick. Thanks to all of our sponsors, Taylor Tins, Jobtown, Crew First, Toxic Suppression. New year. Can't wait to see what it entails. We talked all about it in our personal episode with Brennan and I about the good things we got coming. So stay tuned. And yeah, thanks for watching and listening. And as always, don't be a shitbag.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. And don't be a shitbag.